sugar-coated love. Yeah, sugar-coated love. He's a real good baby. I tell me, maybe he's mine. Well, I don't have to worry about money, and I don't have to worry about love, and I don't have to worry about anything, 'cause he's my baby, and goodness knows he's got sugar-coated love. Yeah, sugar-coated loving. He's a real good baby. I tell me, baby, he's mine.
New York, New York, a wonderful town. The Bronx is up and the Battery's down. The people ride in a hole in the ground. New York, New York, it's a wonderful town.
And now, it's time for Talkin' New York Sports with Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network of programming. And here's your hosts, Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike.
We're coming at you from the Billy C studio in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for Talkin' New York Sports with Billy C. And joining me, my main man, Brooklyn Mikey. What's up, brother?
How are you, brother?
Okay. Considering, hurricanes hit New York City, man. I growing up as a kid, I knew it was possible, but honestly, I got to be totally honest. I never thought that I would ever see the day that a hurricane, which, is just supposed to be happening down in the tropical weather areas, hits New York and devastates it the way it did.
Yeah, I grew up in New York, as you know. I've only been out about 3 or 4 years, and I've never seen anything like this before. It's just total devastation. I was actually online early this morning looking at pictures before and after of certain locations of New York, New Jersey. And it's mind-boggling, the effect that this storm has had. And, at one point, it was a Category 1. I mean, this is not even like what they go through, like you said, in the tropics. They go through Category 3 and 4. And then it went from a 1 just to a very bad storm. And still, the devastation. And, a lot of my family's still up there. And the worst thing that happened was they lost power. And But my condolences and my heart goes out to those families who really, have suffered and lost homes and in some cases lives.
Yeah, no doubt. And the weird thing about it was I was kind of following the whole thing, and they kept saying don't go by the category, don't go by the definition, don't go by the fact that they just downgraded. It's not a hurricane anymore, just as it was hitting New York. They said it's weird, and the way these fronts, there was multiple fronts coming in, and the end result was just these combinations of these two storms, and that's really what hit the New York area. It summed it up the most. As you know, we got hit pretty hard with last year's hurricane here upstate, and so I was kind of keeping my eye on the weather and stuff, and I'm watching. The Weather Channel had like their coverage of it, and I'm watching it, right? And this guy, it was just before he was at Battery Park, and it was just before everything really hit. The water was already above the platform, and they were showing you how high it was going to be, and how much flood there was going to go. And as he's standing there, now granted, Mikey, he's bracing himself because of the wind, and they're talking 60-mile-an-hour winds. He's lined up as a standing there, kind of planted it with his feet so he, wouldn't get blown away. The rain is beating on him and everything else. And as he's talking, all of a sudden he stops. He looks over his shoulder. There's a guy on a jet ski at Battery Park during all of this. And he turns around and he just looks at the camera, and you could tell that he was shocked to see this idiot on a jet ski. And he turns and he says, "Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we are in New York, and people do whatever the hell they want here in New York." And it was kind of a light moment for such a serious situation. And after I watched it, I'm saying to myself, what the hell was that guy thinking?
Yeah, stupidity. That's what it boils down to. And if something happened to that guy, you don't wish anything bad about to any harm to people, but if something happens to a person like that, then you just scratch your head and say, well, you know what, you caused your own fate. I mean, there was a woman I was talking to you the other day. She went out jogging in that storm, and a tree branch fell on her and killed her. And you say to yourself, you feel bad, but then again, you made your own bed. Why would you do something so stupid as to go outside and jog? You really need to jog that badly? And then there are people that actually did the right thing by trying to evacuate and staying home, and they were still killed by, falling trees and falling limbs, and that's a shame, when you're trying to do the right thing and still tragedy strikes.
Yeah, no doubt. And like we talked the other day, there was dozens of people who went out to get film and footage and, enjoy if you can enjoy it, but enjoy the natural disaster, so to speak, with the waves and everything else. Park their car, go out on the beach, it starts to get bad. They go back to the car and they forgot about the fact that the car might have been buried in water, and like a dozen of those cars out on the island. That's exactly what happened. But crazy stuff. And a great segue to a question I have for you. I don't know if you heard this. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but in Florida, did you catch the 9 people that were charged in a gambling ring on Pop Warner football? Did you catch that?
No, you got to be kidding me.
No, man. I thought a few years back when the hockey dads, busted out onto the ice and started fist fights with the coach and other team members and stuff like that. I thought that was a low point, but geez, gambling on Pop Warner football, and the best part, it's not the best, but the craziest part is they accused their kids. They had proof that the kids were shaving points and stuff. I mean, it's comical. It's comical. Yeah, it was reported in the news. It really stemmed from Deerfield Park, which is actually where Don King hangs out a lot. And it was an 18-month-long investigation. This wasn't something that just somebody got a quick heads up on. They were covering this for a year and a half.
That's amazing. That is simply amazing. I'm speechless. I can't believe that. Kids.
Yeah.
Kids.
Well,
and then they blame the kids for shaving points.
Right, exactly.
Unbelievable.
They said what gave it away, and guess what? An ESPN team uncovered it because they were there for some reason filming some different throughout the country, different high school, different Pop Warner type stuff, and they had film footage of parents literally in the stands exchanging cash. They had it all on camera, and that's what prompted the investigation. And 9 people subsequently got arrested earlier this week. Crazy stuff, man.
Amazing. Simply, like I said, I'm speechless.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I know. At first, I laughed, and then I said to myself, "Oh man," and then someday, somewhere, one of these kids that participated in these games that mom and dad and cousin Charlie were gambling on is going to be busted for something like shaving points. And they're going to
or
want
a bookie. He'll be a bookie.
Right, he'll become a bookie, and they'll wonder where did little Johnny learn all this?
Pop
Warner, man, he was watching it in the stands. But anyway, let's wrap up the Major Baseball League season. The World Series. We didn't get to do our show last week, and the World Series came and went. I'm just curious to get your final thoughts. The Detroit Tigers, who I was rooting for too, you had picked them to win it all. Because of your boy Jim Leland, and they got shut out, man. I was shocked to see that, Mikey.
Yeah, I was too. What it came down to was just timely hitting on the part of the San Francisco Giants, and no hitting whatsoever. From the Detroit Tigers, the starting pitching and the relief pitching of the San Francisco Giants just shut them down completely. They pulled a New York Yankees on themselves. Basically, they couldn't hit, and again, San Francisco just timely hitting. There's nobody on that team that scares you. With the Detroit, you had that combination 3-4 of Cabrera and Prince Fielder. But I mean, there's no. I mean, does Sandoval scare you? Does Buster Posey scare you? I mean, he's a good hitter, but he's not, he doesn't, instill a fear into an opposing pitcher. And again, they just the right hit, the right time. And I was as surprised as you. I thought it would be a much closer series. I thought pitching would be a big part of it, which it was, but only on San Francisco's part.
It brings us back to something. I think I honestly can't recall if we talked about this on our last show or if we just talked about this on the phone between ourselves. But, this is the second time that this has happened to Detroit, and it's also the second time that they had a bit of where a lot of times in the past we've looked at this as a luxury to rest and get your pitching in order and everything else. I'm talking about the delay between them knowing they're in the World Series and waiting to see who they're going to face. As the years have gone by, and especially in the last handful of years that I can recall, Mikey, this seems to be the kiss of death to all teams, not just the Tigers, but to all teams that seem to have the so-called luxury of, resting up. I think it's counterproductive. I think we're starting to see, and I don't have statistics in front of me, but I would be surprised if the stats don't show that at least of late in the last decade, that teams that get this extended rest period seem to come into their series flat.
Yeah, because I guess their rhythm is broken. These are professional athletes; they don't need to rest 6-7 days before the start of a new series. And you could take the same thing and look at it, like with football when the Giants went into Green Bay last year, and Green Bay was resting Aaron Rodgers, from the 15th or 16th game of this regular season, and he just wasn't in rhythm. So I mean, it could have the opposite effect. You think that my guys are well rested, but you know what? Timing is everything, and especially when with baseball, you're timing that ball that's coming in at 95, 96 miles per hour. And if you don't do it consistently and stay in that rhythm, your timing could be off. And it's a great point. I think that definitely had an effect on Detroit.
I wonder. I mean, obviously these guys know this kind of stuff, and I think because professional sports has become such so dependent and on money, and it's become such an investment in terms of teams with their players and what have you. I'm sure they know that there's a flat factor, and I'm sure they have the resources to simulate a game to stay sharp. But aren't a lot of these teams, and it even goes beyond baseball, aren't a lot of these teams, so concerned with injury that maybe, when they get this rest period, that they actually don't take advantage of it to stay sharp because the fear of a fluke injury taking place is also a concern?
Absolutely, but not so much baseball, but especially football.
Well,
and that's why every year you go through the same thing. A team is going to make the playoffs. We already know that. They already clinched a playoff spot. And what's the big decision that these coaches have to make? Should I rest my starting quarterback? Should I play him in the final game of the season when it really means nothing? They can get shut out 55-0, and still they have a bye the first week. So now he's not going to start week 16. He's going to have a bye week. So 3 weeks later, he's playing a game and he's rested for 3 weeks, and a lot of times it just does the adverse effect, and it ruins their rhythm, and subsequently lose the game.
Yeah, and we talked about this, several weeks ago, a month or so ago, about the preseason. At least, several weeks ago. It's already been we're in week 9 of the NFL. I mean, talk about flying by, but. I made a point about that with preseason because they do the same thing. I mean, you make the point right now with football about saving your starters going into the playoffs after you clinch a playoff position, at the end of the year. But we made the point several weeks back that, the preseason has almost done that as well. I mean, we got starters, the starting lineups in the NFL aren't even hitting the field full time until week number 1. And now what seems to have taken place, and we see it in today's NFL, that first quarter of the season, those first 4 games are really getting you in game shape, which is wrong, I think. I mean, that's what the intent of the preseason used to be for. But, again, the fear of losing a marquee player and all that money that's invested in him or her, depending upon, what sport you're talking about, it's all relative. I mean, it's the money in a negative way is driving the sport.
Well, money drives everything, unfortunately, and which is a great segue into what I wanted to talk about, the marathon that was canceled in New York City.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. Even though the mayor promised that that it was going to take place, they announced that yesterday, right?
Yeah, and again, money is the root of all evil. I mean, Mayor Bloomberg, he called the NBA basically and told them, we shouldn't play the opening game at the Barclays Center between the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets. We should cancel that game, and the NBA agreed and canceled the game. However, that takes place in a tiny arena in one section of Brooklyn, where he still wanted the marathon to go on, which takes place in every borough, where you're running through every borough and you're seeing total destruction and everything below 34th Street in New York City is still dark. There's no power. There are still millions of people without power. Yet he wanted to run the marathon but cancel a basketball game. Well, it's all about the money. And but you know what? He had to succumb to the pressure because people were just outraged by this, and it would have been a really black mark on his legacy because he actually has been a pretty good mayor, and he had no choice but to listen to the people and to cancel it, even though he said that it wouldn't take away police presence or anything that like generators and everything. But that was the problem. You saw on the cover of the New York Post that these giant generators that could be used elsewhere were being used to heat giant tents for the runners in Central Park, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's not the time or the place to show, oh, look at us, we're New Yorkers, we're resilient, we fight back. Okay, you did that with 9/11. Okay, but you're showing the terrorists, okay, you did what you did, but we're resilient. We're going to fight back, and our baseball games, even though canceled for a week, they'll come back and we'll play and we'll be, tough and we'll be New Yorkers again. But who are you showing here? Mother Nature? Does she care? No, it's Mother Nature. It's a joke. It's all about money, and I'm glad that he came to his senses and canceled this because, like I said, I was looking this morning, and the devastation is just unbelievable.
Just jumping to we'll talk about the basketball in a second, but it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that he calls up Stern in the NBA and he says, I think you should cancel that game at the Barclays Center, which could have brought some. I'm thinking, sometimes sporting events. Let me tell you something. Sometimes sporting events. Now I agree with you 100% about the marathon because of the size and the magnitude and what's involved logistically with that, but when you're talking about a game, a lot of times that lifts the spirits of people, and it's done so many times in the past. When in a catastrophe, whether it be a natural or war torn or something like that, we've still stayed fast with sports. My hang up with that whole Brooklyn New York Knicks thing with the Nets and the Knicks was. The Knicks opened up last night at Madison Square Garden. I mean, you're talking about 2 days difference, and they had the same issues still. So we'll talk about that in a second. A couple of things left in baseball. I just wanted to get through real quick, Mikey. First and foremost, congratulations on Jim Leland. They are bringing him back for next year. It was announced yesterday, and. I mean, that was even to me. It wasn't even a question. How could you not bring him back? Unless he decided that it was enough. I mean, the guy has shown that he still has it.
Absolutely, and Jimmy Leland, he should go out on his terms and his terms only. Not only is he a great manager, but he is just an ambassador for the game. He's a class act, and I had the pleasure and the good fortune to work with Lee Mazzilli, years ago, and I once asked Lee. I says, who was the best manager you ever worked with, or played for, I should say? And he said, without a doubt, it was Jimmy Leland. And he just told me, some great stories about Jimmy, and that's why I became a fan without even knowing the guy. I became a fan of Jim Leland's. So, you're absolutely right. There should be no question about it. And that man should just, have carte blanche. And when he's ready to retire and be put out the stud, then that's, it should be on his terms and his terms only.
I'm sorry, but every time I think of Jim Leland, I think of the Pirates, man. I just, to me, he was synonymous with that club when the last time they were a quality team, really, But anyway, a couple of teams this year in the Major League Baseball kind of surprised us a bit, and of course, one of them was I'm calling them now my Oakland A's, and another one was the Baltimore Orioles. My question to you, Mikey, is this: they clearly snuck up on all of us this year, both of these teams, and they got it done all year long. With guts and what did I refer to them as? A sparky team, a team that just was resilient and had a lot of heart and stuff. Not much talent, but got it done. My question now is: are they going to pick up where they left off last year? Are they going to? Obviously they're not going to be able to sneak up on anybody. Do they have the talent? Are these young players going to be able to maintain the groundwork that they've laid? And let's face it, both teams got into the playoffs. Both teams did very well.
Yeah, are they going to pick up where they ended this year? I don't think they'll deteriorate and finish, 73 and 89 or something like that. This team won 93 games, and the only part of this team that really needs some improvement, just like any team, is pitching. Their starting pitching just gave up, a lot of runs. At one point in the season, they gave up more than they scored. So the hitting is there. They are a scrappy team. There's no doubt about it. They also have some power in that outfield, so they can they can keep up with the Yankees, hitting the ball over the fence. But if they just it's just a couple of pieces, because they have great chemistry, and as you know, chemistry is a lot when it comes to baseball. So I think they will be up there. They surprised the heck out of me. I said that during the season when they're halfway through, I said, they're still there, and but they'll fade. But I was wrong. Showalter is again, he's one of the best in the business, and they'll be relevant next year, as opposed to the team in Queens that won't be.
Well, and then you got the A's, who actually dramatically passed and ended up winning the division over a team that many experts believe was the best baseball team in the majors this year, in the Texas Rangers, and that's the A's. How are they going to fare next year?
Again, they should do well. As long as you keep that team intact, and maybe add a piece here and there. Again, another team that, just like you said, surprised everybody, even to the last week of the season. To win 6 in a row, and to have Texas lose 3 in a row, and they swept them the last weekend. Nobody saw that coming.
No,
Texas was in first place from day one, and they lost it in the last day of the season.
And
what's that?
I'm saying, what's funny about the A's? You say, you could pick up a piece here, a piece there. There's a lot of pieces when you look at the statistics and you look at the players. There's a lot of pieces that you could conceivably argue that the A's need. Yet, in other words, if you look at that team and then and if you told somebody that they won the division and made it into the playoffs and made a run, you would kind of laugh to yourself and say, how could they have with this team?
Well, that's true. You say that, but you know what? And as well as I know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. True. If this team, as the Baltimore Orioles, have great chemistry. They play well together, great defense, and you don't want to mess with that sometimes. So, if this team wins 94 games, only second to the New York Yankees in the AL, why mess with it? What are you going to revamp it? You can't. You see who you lose during free agency, and you try to fill those holes, that you do lose. But, I mean, this is definitely – these two teams, you do not revamp them. You just try to, add that ingredient to put them over the top and to get into the World Series.
Yeah, like everybody. They need, a couple of pitchers. We have such a shortage of quality pitching in the majors. It's not funny. Let's talk a little about the Yankees. Yankees fans are, ready to jump off a bridge after, they lose the main guy, the heart and soul of that team. It makes me wonder what's going to happen when he finally retires. And, of course, I'm talking about Derek Jeter. He gets the leg injury, and he's out. And subsequently, the Yanks were out 3 days after. So it was the end of that. There's some off-season moves. One of the moves that I thought, I don't know, we talked a little about it yesterday, but Soriano decided to buy out his contract, which I'm not so sure I fully understand, because I know the Yankees are still trying to make a deal with him and a couple other players. Explain to us what's going on with the Yankees and Soriano, and they also have some other free agents that they're looking at, like Mariano Rivera, Andy Pettit, Derek Lowe, and some others that they're on the cusp with, right, for going into next year.
Well, as of now, the Yankees made qualifying offers to three of their players: Nick Swisher, Rafael Soriano, and Hireki Kuroda. And what a qualifying offer is, you offer at least $13.3 million for 1 year. Now, if another team, wants one of these players that you've made a qualifying offer for, you will be compensated. So if you said Rafael Soriano opted out of his contract, even though he was given a qualifying offer, if he signs with another team and, becomes their guaranteed closer, which is exactly what he wants. He wants to be the closer, and he wants to have closer money and sign a 3, 4, 5 year contract. Well, that team will have to compensate the New York Yankees and give them, usually it's a draft pick. So that's why these offers were put out to these guys. That being said, in the case of Soriano, like I said, he wants to be a closer, and you don't know right now if Mariano Rivera is coming back. Now, you saw what he went through. He went through a tremendous amount of rehab, and he was working really hard, and it was all signs of, okay, he does want to come back for one more year. However, recently there have been doubts. Their pitching coach has doubted that he really does want to come back. So at this point, the Yankees had no choice. Their hand was forced into giving Soriano a qualifying offer. If the Yankees lose both those guys, they're in trouble, because Robertson is not going to be the closer from day one until the last day of the season. And you don't know how. Let's say Mariano does come back, you don't know how good he's going to be.
Exactly.
You don't.
Exactly.
Soriano has proven himself that he's a starter. That he is a bona fide closer, and that's where he's most comfortable. When he was the setup man for Mariano, he wasn't pitching, like he did when he was with Tampa, when he had 45 saves. If I was the Yankee brass, I would worry about Rivera, whether he comes back or doesn't come back, and if he does come back, is he going to be the same player? I would definitely make an offer to Soriano, because he's proven himself. And you know what? It's not only that he's a good closer; he's a good closer in New York, which most people are not. A lot of people just can't play in New York, and this guy has proven he can. And if you have somebody like that, you go after him. It's business. Okay, we all know Mariano has been the greatest reliever that we've ever seen in our lifetime, and he's been a great New York Yankee. But you know what? You can't count on that right now, and you have to go forward, and you got to sign this guy, and you got to sign him to 3, 4, 5 years, whatever he wants. He wants $13 million a year for 5 years. Well, you know what? Lock him up, because great closers are hard to find, and great closers in New York City are even harder to find.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and Riviera's going to fizzle out soon enough. Hey, I'm sure Dennis Eckersley would argue that point with you, but about Mariano.
I'm sure he would.
Yeah, but my question is this: they it sounds like a good insurance move that the Yankees made, a smart business move by making the qualifying offers. Now, let's say hypothetically, the Boston Red Sox turn around and they say to Soriano, "Okay, we're going to offer you a 3-year deal worth $50 million." All right, and I'm just saying, arguing, and if he signs, obviously the Yankees get a draft compensation. But are the Yankees still in a position to say, okay, we'll give you 51?
The Yankees have unlimited funds, as we know.
No, but I mean, once I'm not talking about the amount of money. I was more referring to the qualifying offer is an insurance policy, but is that their max bid? Are they able to get into the bidding game with other teams if it went to that?
Oh, they'll be able to match. Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to what they offer him. If it is the Red Sox, like you say.
No, I just hypothetically.
Yeah, no, but listen, that wouldn't surprise me. Boston trying to take away, the Yankees' best closer. But yeah, it'll come down to. I mean, he already opted out, like you said, and somebody's going to make him an offer. But the Yankees do have time to match that offer or to give him, more. And like I said, if I was the Yankee brass, I mean, that's an important piece to the puzzle, and you need a bona fide closer. And so yeah, they will have time, and they will be able to negotiate. And if Soriano decides, you know what, I'm going to move on, even though you're offering me the same amount of money, I'm going to move on to another team for whatever reason. Yeah, then the Yankees are going to get compensated. But, you're talking about a draft pick as opposed to a guy who's proven he could pitch in New York City.
Speaking of the Red Sox, they are real close to closing the deal, almost worth $30 million for a two-year deal with Ortiz. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, I believe they did close that deal, and it was for 2 years, 26. And,
plus incentives. Incentives. I think incentives bring it to around 30.
It's about 30 incentives. Yeah, they need him back. I mean, they gave away a lot of their team to the Dodgers, and this team is pretty much starting from starting over. But you do need some team leadership. You do need some power, and he's been an important part of that team, and his numbers haven't declined. So yeah, I mean, for 2 years, it's a good move. They didn't break the bank. Like you said, the incentives will bring it to 30 if he meets those incentives. So yeah, I think it was a very smart move by Boston. They couldn't afford to lose him. Let's put it that way.
Well, the Nationals, on the other hand, kind of let a couple of their key position. Well, I should not say key position, but key players. Go. Adam LaRoche, who was their first baseman, and one of their relievers, Sean Burnett, are both free agents after last week or after the beginning of this week. How can the Nationals do that when they seem to be, they went against the grain with everything we all thought, and they had a successful year. They made it to the playoffs. They, got out. They didn't get to the World Series, but still they got in there, and everything looks so promising for them. Why would they let this happen?
Well, I guess they're letting it happen. If this team is doing that, then they have a backup plan. I was surprised about LaRoche, but I don't know who they have in their farm system, and I'm sure they have a plan to replace him. Just like when the Phillies let go of Jim Tomei. Oh, how could they do that? Well, in came what's his face? Who's the first baseman for the Phillies? His name escapes me. Ryan? No.
No, my baseball see I can picture him. He's a big doofus, but right?
But,
I mean,
yeah,
and he's a Met killer. He's a Met killer.
Yeah, they had a plan. They had somebody that they knew was going to fill in those shoes and probably exceed what like Tomei did. So yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked. A little surprised LaRoche because he was very solid. But if Strasburg comes back the way he's supposed to come back and complete a whole season as their ace. This team is going to be back, at the top of their division, fighting it out what it like again next year.
True. You or I could play first base then, right?
Yeah.
I'm real happy. What's your thoughts? And I don't know if this is a record or not, but Don Zimmerman's going back. They already agreed. The Tampa Bay Rays have agreed to bring him back with the team. This guy's been involved in the sport of baseball, I think, since since Doubleday invented it. He's 81 years old. I mean, what's your thoughts of Don Zimmerman still being Don Zimmerman? No, I'm even messing up Zimmer's name. I said Zimmerman, but of course I meant Don Zimmer. 81 years old, or in his case, 81 years young. What's your thoughts at that age being back in the majors?
Well, you know what? If his mind is there and he's healthy and he's a brilliant baseball person, as we know. He was manager of the Red Sox. He was with Joe Torre throughout Torre's career with the Yankees. If he can do it and he wants to do it, and they feel that he's going to bring something to the Rays, yeah, why not? I mean, he's not going to be on the bench. He's basically a senior advisor. So listen, God bless him. I think it's great. I think, with all that knowledge that he has, he's definitely going to help. And he definitely knows that AL East just as well as anybody does, because spending all those years with the Yankees. So I think it's a smart move. Age is a number. Basically, if you're 82 and you still have your wits and you're healthy, it's a number. So I think it's a really good move by the Rays to bring him into the front office.
That's what I'm at my age now, Mikey. That's what I'm starting to say. It's just a number, man. It's just a number.
Yeah, exactly.
Pascal Perez, a former Yankee pitcher, had a lot of negative press during his career with the Yankees, was murdered or at least was found dead in his home in Santo Domingo earlier this week. They're trying to tie it to possible. There was definitely a robbery, but they're wondering if there was drugs involved. What's your thoughts on that negative news?
That's terrible. As a matter of fact, it's the first time I'm hearing about it. I didn't know about that, and wow.
Yeah, Pascal Perez, dead, 55 years old.
Wow, 55 years old.
Yeah.
Robbed and murdered.
Wow. Well, they said it at first. They thought it was a robbery. But his ex-wife had discovered the body, and now they're saying that there was a possibility that it was a robbery due to drug money owed, and he did have a history of drug abuse and drug problems, and they're trying to sort it all out now. But bad news for the Yankee family.
Yeah, that's a shame. He spent most of his career with Montreal, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Pascal Perez. Yeah.
Yeah, what a shame. Oh, well.
Well, speak about bad news for teams in New York. I guess we got to mention a little bit about the Mets.
Yes, we do.
They picked up the options for David Wright and R.A. Dickey. You and I talked about this the other day. Listen, I said this to you the other day, and I said we should have the tape going because, this is a show. But, the bottom line is this, Mike. I love R.A. Dickey just as much as anyone else, all right? And I, too, believe he's a Cy Young guy. I just think that they need to put a cap on what they're willing to pay him because he's not an ace pitcher. Yes, he had an ace-like pitcher year this year. He had a fantastic year last year, and he very well may have a fantastic year, next year. But, the Mets brass have to think clearly about what they pay this guy, and likewise with David Wright. I think they're in the same boat. I mean, yes, he's a marquee player. Yes, he could be the face of the franchise, but he's not that great. I mean, what's your thoughts about them retaining both these guys?
Well,
or
my thought is this. Number one, they've picked up the option on both players. We already know that. David Wright is going to make $16 million this year. It's in his final year of his contract. R.A. is going to make $5 million, final year of his 3-year contract. The Mets need somebody, Billy, and why not keep? He's a solid player, David Wright. No matter what you think about him, what I feel is that you don't see the quote unquote intensity and the leadership that let's say a guy like Jeter shows with David. David is very soft spoken, but you know what? His bat speaks for itself. I mean, he's a solid player, and you need an all-star in that lineup. I think, as long as they don't overpay for him, I do want to see him back on the team next year. That being said, I don't know if he will be. I think he's going to get better offers elsewhere.
Where?
And,
who's going to offer him more money? I mean, Sandy Alderson said that his main priority this year in the offseason is to sign both, David Wright and Dickey to long-term deals. He said that's his main goal in the offseason. I know he could just be saying that, but truthfully, what other team would be willing to open up the checkbook more than the Mets will for David Wright, based on his ability? I mean, let's face it, he's not the best third baseman in Major League Baseball.
No, he's not the best, but he's still a very solid third baseman, and not everybody has an all-star at third base. So, I mean, I don't see, he's going to want a little over $100 million for 7 years, maybe 8 years. So, I mean, it's not he's not breaking the bank, but I don't think the Mets are going to overpay, like I said. And if they don't sign him by the end of the winter negotiations, I think you will see his name on the trading block. And unlike what they did with Jose Reyes, they will at least get something for him and trade him. I don't want to see that. I like David Wright. I think he's a class act, and as well as a solid baseball player. He's not a great baseball player. He's made the All-Star team, on more than one occasion. So, but I ask you this: you trade him. I mean, are you going to get something equally as good at third base?
The point is that if you're going to have my belief in all sports is that if you're going to go with a youth movement, you go with a youth movement. When David Wright first came to the Mets, him and my man,
Reyes.
Jose Reyes, they were the youth movement. They were the cornerstones of the team. That seemed to be a smart move. They had their infield. It seemed set for 10 years. That's what we all thought. And then all of a sudden they let Reyes go. Now David Wright, he's considering going. Sandy says, and you've mentioned this many times, that his year is 2014, so he's pretty much throwing in the towel next year. It'll be his team. All these catchphrases we hear come out of his mouth. Maybe this is just another one of those deals where you have to say to yourself, well, you know what? We are still financially strapped. Maybe it is advantageous to take some of these all-star or potential all-star younger players, get them in the majors, take our lumps now, sign them, to longer-term contracts so we're not in the same boat 4 years from now, and let a David Wright go bye-bye. I know you're saying to yourself, what the hell did David Wright ever do to Billy C? But the thing is the guy just doesn't impress me. I'm sorry, he just doesn't.
But what doesn't impress you? His numbers have always been solid. I mean, you can't argue his numbers.
I don't know.
You don't think? I mean, is it the persona? Is that what it is? Be honest. Is it his quiet demeanor that rubs you the wrong way?
You know what it is? You know what rubs me the wrong way? He never seems to come through when you really, really need him. And I know this year he did better, at that, but I know last year and years leading up to the beginning part of this season, he just wasn't, and when you have a guy, now granted, it also, I understand about lineups and how you got to have someone protecting them and a good hitter in front and behind them and all of that stuff, and the Mets failed to do that, but just a lot of the year, it seemed that he was just going through the motions, His patented barehanding grabbing of the slowly hit ground ball to him and making that play. I think he overdoes it. There are times when he's got to do it, but he's got a tendency now to do it every single time, and that kind of stuff wears on me, I think.
Let me ask you this. I mean, the guy is a lifetime hitter, a lifetime 300 hitter. You don't think a team like Boston would love to see him at third base?
No, I think they would love to get Jason Bay back, and I think that we're going to try to work that deal. From what I understand, we're going to try to work that deal and throw in some friggin' hot dogs too with the deal. But
yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck. That guy's not going anywhere. We're stuck with him for one more year at $16 million. To bat 201 and to get another concussion.
Well, the bottom line is the Mets are going nowhere, and we have nothing positive to say. So let's move on to basketball. Kicked off the NBA season. I'd like to look at the teams and get your thoughts on how our New York teams are going to do. The Knicks, they got their season opener out of the way yesterday, and they beat the defending champions Miami Heat pretty convincingly. I found it funny that. What's his name? Carmelo Anthony said this year I'm a changed player. I'm not going to be taking shots. I'm not going to be shooting as much as I try to all the time. I'm going to pass the ball a lot more and everything else. And yet he was throwing the ball up like he was the only guy on the team, like he was playing against the Heat, one on him against the whole team yesterday. But they beat the Heat and they beat him well. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he put up 30 points yesterday, 10 rebounds. He is who he is. He's a scorer, and that's what he does. But that being said, the team really shot well from the three-point line last night.
Over the court.
Everybody contributed from the three-point. They were 19 of 36 yesterday. The whole team played well. Ray Felton, 14 points, 9 assists. We were concerned about point guard. After losing Jeremy Lin, but Felton's solid. He played well. Even Jason Kidd, he had a good game last night. You know what? I feel that this team, it plays better, and Carmelo plays better without Amari Stoudemire. And Stoudemire's out for 6 to 8 weeks. I just don't see those two. They haven't gelled yet, and I don't think they're going to gel this year. And I think before the end of the year, you might see Stoudemire going somewhere else, whatever we can get for him, because he's damaged goods. He's not the player that came to us from Phoenix. So listen, my prediction about the Knicks, 41, 42, 43 wins. I mean, that's about it. I can't see anything more than that, and if anything less than that, it'll be a disaster. So that's what I feel. Will they sneak into the playoffs? Yeah, probably. But that's about it. I don't have anything any positive, warm, fuzzy feelings about the Knicks this year. And and don't forget, this team is the oldest team now in the NBA. I mean, everybody they got from free agency, Camby, Kidd, Wallace, these guys are all mid to upper 30s now. So I was surprised that they won last night, but I don't see this team. Like I said, I give them 43 games max.
Yeah, you heard it, Brooklyn Mike. Dissing the first place Knicks, man. They're in first place right now, 1-0, baby. I happen to be glancing at the standings right now, and the Knicks are in first place at 1-0, and the Boston Celtics are down in the basement, 0-2. And ironically enough, the Brooklyn Nets are tied for actually, they're not even tied. They're sole possession of second place, a half game out of first, Mikey, with an 0-0 record. I love how the statistics come out. They're in second place with not playing a game, and they're only a half a game out of first place. I find that hysterical. But I think you hit it right on the head about Stoudemire. And you know what? I got to be honest. I've always loved Melo, man. I love Carmelo Anthony. I had hoped that he was going to be a Net. I know it was a toss-up between the Knicks and Nets. He ended up going with the Knicks. I really wish, and I started to say this earlier, I really wish that they would have followed through with the Nets-Knicks game at the Barclays Center, even though it was on the heels of the natural disaster here that we call Hurricane Sandy. But I thought that it might have been a good move to let it happen. They chose not to, but yet they let it happen at the Garden two nights later. And I just thought that to have that game at that new arena, especially on the heels of the devastation that the city took, I thought it would have been an attaboy rather than a negativity.
I thought it was a little too close to the disaster. That game was scheduled for Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday.
And
night.
Monday was that was the peak of the storm, Monday night into Tuesday, and Tuesday you saw the devastation. So would have I liked to see it? Yeah, of course. It'd been a great opener, but the NBA does have to finally play a game, and so they just said, you know what, let's just play Friday, and we'll just cancel that one game, and they rescheduled it. It's November 26th, but that being said, getting back to the Knicks and the Nets, he made a joke saying, they're only half game out with a 0-0 record. I see that team actually contending to be a contender this year in the Eastern Conference in the Atlantic Division. I like Brooklyn. I think Brook Lopez, the center, he's only getting better as far as I can see. And him with his two guards there, it's going to be a formidable team, and they're going to give Philly and everybody else in that division, Boston. I think Boston's shot, but they're going to give everybody a run for their money, and I wouldn't be surprised if they have finished on top in that division.
Let's take a look at all the divisions right now real quick, and I just want to ask you just simply who's going to win a division. That's it. We'll start off with the Atlantic Division, of course, the East. Who do you like to win that division?
I like Brooklyn to win it, but I think, being realistic, I think Philly edges them out. I think the Sixers, the acquisitions that they gotten during the offseason with the big trade with L.A., Bynum, I believe they have now. I like that team to squeak out, to squeak it out and to top Brooklyn, and then I see the Knicks finishing in third place there.
What about? I actually disagree with you. I'm picking the Nets. I do think the Nets are going to come out. There's something about that stadium and the fact that they went to Brooklyn, and they quietly have a very talented team. I think they're going to surprise some people, and I'm actually picking them to win the division over Philly. What about the Atlantic South? Who do you like in that?
South or the Central? Where are we going? Which way?
Well, I was going to go South. I'm just going. I was going to go
okay.
East. Let's just look at South, then Central.
Well, South.
Yeah.
Okay. South. I mean, who else do you pick besides the Miami Heat?
Right.
I mean, that's the defending champs. They're the team to beat. They picked up probably one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, in Ray Allen. Even though he's he's getting a little old in the tooth, he can still hit that three, and he's not going to start. So he'll come off the bench. I think the team has actually improved a little bit now. They still play a great defense, although they're a little too over-aggressive last night with the Knicks. That's what caused them problems. But yeah, they are definitely the favorite to not only win the division, but just to get back to the finals again.
What about the Central?
Chicago. I mean, you got to go with Chicago. Solid team. Jalen Rose. I like them to win it. I don't see anybody really pushing them. Milwaukee, Cleveland. Cleveland is Cleveland without LeBron. They're nothing, and I think they take that Central Division pretty easily.
Yeah, like you, I don't know if I even said it, but like you, I am picking the Heat, and also I am picking the Bulls as well. What about the Southwest Division in the Western Conference? You know what?
Kind of an open
one, right?
Yeah, it's kind of open, but you know what? San Antonio they're just a solid team year after year, and as long as Duncan is still there, they're going to be a solid team. And Ginobili, and they'll be right up there. Do I think Houston? Nah, that Jeremy Lin going there, that Linsanity nonsense. He made the best of a 20-game career, and he cashed in. He's not going to be the player that everybody thought he was going to be. Yeah, I don't see anybody really giving them too much of a problem.
Yeah.
Maybe Memphis, but I like San Antonio to win that division.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm picking the Spurs. It's kind of funny to mention Duncan's name. I mean, was he with Naismith? I mean, was this guy? I mean, he's been around forever, man. I mean,
unbelievable, yeah.
I
mean, you still think of him when Robinson
I know
teamed together.
I know, unbelievable. How about the Northwest? Who do you like there?
You got to go with the favorite, which is Oklahoma City. I'm sure they want to finish. Get back to the finals and to take care of business, which they didn't do last year, and losing to Miami. You got to look at Denver as well, another solid team in the Northwest. But I think it'll be Oklahoma taking that division.
I love Denver. I always have because of Carmelo Anthony, probably. But like you, I'm taking Oklahoma as well. I'm scared because now that we're agreeing on all of these, that means none of these guys are going to make it in. But
probably
this is where I think we're going to be different. The Pacific. Who do you like in the West Conference?
Well, I got to tell you right off the bat that I'm shocked that the Lakers are 0-3. Who would have saw that coming?
Hey, Kobe says, "Shut up, man! Shut up, everybody!" Did you hear that? He says to the fans, "Shut up! Just shut up." That's what he said.
Unbelievable.
He's even getting old. You always think of Kobe as a young player, but he's ready to hang him up at 30. But
yeah, well, he's even more. I think he's about 32, 33.
Yeah,
he's the veteran of that team now.
I know.
I mean, you look at that team on paper and you say, "Oh, how does this team lose?" And now they got they got the best center in basketball, but they are 0-3, and like we spoke about earlier, chemistry is everything. And right now they're not gelling. Do I pick the surprise team and say I think the Clippers?
Oh, come on! Don't be picking my team. That's my team. That's my team. Don't be jinxing my Clippers, man.
But I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna let you have your glory and pick
All
the
right.
Clippers, and then I'm gonna say that the Lakers, they pull it together, and this is a team. They had 57 wins last year. And the second closest team in that division was Phoenix with 40. So that's 17 games right there. So I can't see them dropping off that dramatically or the other teams improving that dramatically to challenge them for the division. So I'm going to say they get it together, and I say the Lakers will take that division.
Right. So obviously I gave away my pick. I'm taking the Clippers. I think they came close last year. They started changing their between them and Golden State. I mean, it's just been it's like I feel for those fans because it's similar to us, the Jet fans, But I think the Clippers are going to edge out the Lakers this year and take that division. So I got the Nets, the Heat, the Bulls, the Spurs, Oklahoma City, and the Clippers. You got Philly, the Heat, the Bulls, the Spurs, the Oklahoma, and the Lakers. So just a little FYI. We'll see what happens as the season progresses. Hey, one last thing. We're going to take a break right now, but one last thing. NHL, are we going to have a season or not?
I don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, how they just canceled the Winter Classic, which is going to be held in Michigan. The NHL turned down the 50-50 split of revenue that the owners offered. So where do you go from there?
Did they get their money?
Down 50-50.
Did they get their money? I know the players were supposed to get some profit sharing or some kind of checks were due last week, and I never got the follow-up if they actually got their money. Did they?
I didn't get the follow-up either. They were due some money, and if they're due that money, I mean, I'm sure they'll get it. But as far as the season goes, I think the whole season is going to be lost. I mean, they're already, canceled up to the end of November now?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, who gives a crap? It's over. It's over. It's cold here now. It's cold here where I am right now, and the last thing I want to look forward to is hockey, No,
I understand. I mean, we got our football, and but I will say this about the NHL. When you take any Game 7, be it basketball, hockey, or baseball, take any Game 7, And if you told me you had a choice to sit down and watch only one Game 7, what sport would I watch? I would watch a hockey Game 7 over any of those sports.
Yeah,
I mean, I love baseball on a whole better. I love football on a whole better. But if you watch any Game 7 of any hockey playoff, it doesn't have to be your favorite team. It doesn't have to be a New York team. You watch any Game 7. You know how exciting that is? You're on the seat of your, the edge of your seat, because every time you're in that zone shooting that puck, save here, great save there. And nothing beats a game 7 in the NHL. That being said, if there's no season, oh well.
Yeah, no, and imagine that you could actually see a 2-1 hockey game. That's what I laugh about. Everybody gets all excited. It's like, oh, it was a scoring. It was a plethora of scoring. What was the score? 2-1. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, but that's exciting.
No, I know. No,
those goalies are standing on their head making shots with the back of their skate. I mean, it's exciting hockey. The regular season, you could care less about. But you give me, Game 7s in the NHL, I'll watch that any day of the week.
Hey, I got to give a lot of credit to the goalies and stuff. But you know what? I'm going to talk to you about another sport that I really like. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to mention another sport, see what Mikey's thought is. Then we're going to get into what me and Mikey were drooling over, and that's the NFL. We're going to talk about mid-season report cards for the Giants and the Jets, and we'll take a look in depth with the Jets and Giants, and then also our Week 9 predictions. And Mikey's closing in on me. My bragging might have bit myself in the ass here. But anyway, we're going to take a short break. Mike, I'm going to reset your connection during the break, so we'll be right back. If you're in upstate New York and you need a trucking company, then you need Roselli Enterprises. Roselli Enterprises is trucking at its finest. They have it all. Dump trucks, dump trailers, walk-in floors, flatbeds, flow boys, tankers, loaders, and a full line of roll-off containers for any job, big or small. Roselli Enterprises is also the source for all your sand, gravel, and topsoil needs. Visit them on the web at RoselliTrucking.com or call 315-433-5115. That's 315-433-5115 and tell them Billy C sent you.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. now has official merchandise available on TalkinBoxing.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and mugs. And yes, even undergarments. Talkin' Boxing apparel is the perfect gift for the boxing fan in your life. Log on to www.talkinboxing.com. That's TalkinBoxing.com and place your order today.
We've got a great matchup tonight. Fighting out of the left corner is the #1 ranked contender.
No, he is not.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
I am the IBO computer. I am programmed to provide only fair and unbiased boxing rankings. This fighter is the number 15 ranked contender.
Fair and unbiased boxing rankings? That's a new concept.
Actually, it is not. The IBO has provided unbiased computerized rankings for many years.
Well, we've still got a great fight tonight, folks. In the left corner is the number 15 ranked contender.
The IBO, the champion of integrity. Learn more at IBOboxing.com.
Across the alleyway, up on the boulevard like a zip gun on parade. Lights on the silhouette, he's just a buttonette, coming at you on the count of 1.
And we're back. You are listening to Talkin' New York Sports with Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike. And on the line with me right now is my main man, Brooklyn Mike. Is that better, Mikey?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Oh, okay. Well, it was we had a little blips here, but it does sound crystal clear. Did you ever? Now, I didn't realize. Before we went to break, I was talking about a sport, and you were mentioning about how exciting hockey can be in a Game 7, and I said just before we left, that I give these goaltenders, hockey goaltenders, a lot of credit because really they're. As much as you want to score, and as much as you want to be the guy that's driving the puck up the ice and stuff, the goaltenders are really the best players on the ice. Did you ever watch handball? Now, I'm not talking about handball that you play inside or against the wall or something like that. I'm talking about the sport of handball, where it's kind of like a cross between basketball, hockey, and soccer all at once. Did you ever watch that? It's an Olympic sport now.
No, I mean, the only handball that I know is, against a schoolyard wall in Brooklyn. But, no, I had never have.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought handball was too. But they call it handball, and basically, talk about talented goalies. You're allowed to pass this ball. It's a small ball. It's not the size of a basketball, and it's not the size of a soccer ball. It's in between, all right? And it's soft. You can dribble it, and you can only take a couple of steps before you can dribble, and I think you can only dribble 3 times. And basically, you pass, you line yourself up, sort of like basketball, and instead of shooting it into the basket, you're shooting it into a goal, like a hockey goal. And talk about talented goalies in that sport. I mean, think about it. I know that you can't throw a ball as fast as you can hit a puck with a stick, but man, if you ever get a chance, check out like Olympic style handball. It's huge in Europe. And I wish we got to see more of it here. It seems like a really fun, fast-paced sport.
It's when you said that you throw it into the net, it's reminding me of what's the game you play in the pool? Water polo or something?
Yeah. It's
when you're in the shallow end, everybody's throwing a ball around, and the guy throwing the net.
Yeah,
there's something like that.
It is, and I didn't even think it was called handball. As a matter of fact, somebody said to me, "Oh, that's called handball," and I'm like, "No, it's not." And I said the same thing you did. I said, "Handball. I used to play at school, man. You throw it against the wall, you know." It's like, no, that's not handball. You know, this is handball, and it's pretty cool. Check it out. See what you think. Hey, before we get started with some Jets and Giants talk, this week started off already with a game Thursday night, and the Chargers beat the Colts. I mean, the Chargers beat the Chiefs. That's not that big of a shock. But my question to you is, what is a shock to me, Mike, is that the Kansas City Chiefs are they're just going nowhere fast. I mean, we're really uptight about the Jets, but those Chiefs just they're a bad team.
Yeah, they really are, and I don't know what's going on over there with that whole offense and defense and Jamal Charles, and it's just a mess. A guy like Matt Castle. I mean, this guy, he goes from New England, where he brings them to the playoffs, and he's under Bill Belichick, and he gets this giant contract, and he is just horrible. I mean, I'd even keep Mark Sanchez over Matt Castle.
Come on with the Sanchez. I mean, we're going to talk about him. Let's let me before we give the reports on both the Giants and the Jets. We'll start off with the Giants. This weekend is a big game for the Giants. They're playing the Steelers, and this is the first weekend of the NFL that I totally feel that there's no pressure on me for some reason. I'm just going into this week in the NFL, Mike, just with a clear head and no negativity. I just can't put my finger on why I feel so comfortable this week with football, but I don't know. Maybe it'll come to light a little later. But the bottom line is this: the Steelers are coming to town to play the Giants. Some interesting side stories. The Steelers normally, like all NFL teams, when you come to play somebody, you come in, you fly into the visiting city, and you spend the night. You're there. Everything's acclimated, and you come in and play the game on Football Sunday. That's not the case with the Steelers because of the situation in New York City. There were actually hotels that they were booked at. The hotel that they were booked at has no power still, so they're not flying in the day before. They're going to fly in tomorrow morning, go from the plane right to the field, which is a kind of a negative. I don't care what anybody says. It's kind of a negative. At least I know for me, whenever I travel, even if it's a half hour or 20 minutes, I need to regroup. I feel like I've traveled 100 miles, even if I've only went 10. So that's number one, and number two, the Giants have publicly stated that this game means more to them than the game of football, which gives me an indication that this team is playing for the city of New York and for New Jersey. They're going to be a tough team to beat tomorrow, even for the Steelers. What do you think, real quick?
Because
we'll break down
as far as the travel goes. It's a 4:00 game or 4:25 game, so I really don't think it's going to have too much of an effect on Pittsburgh. These guys are professional athletes. They'll be fine. They'll be up for the game. And as far as the Giants comment, it's a nice thing to say. Of course, it's all about the Sandy tragedy. So does that make them going to play any better? I don't think so. I think it's going to come down to talent and I'm not going to give away my pick right now, but I don't think words are nice, but it comes down to what you do on the field, and that's what it's going to come down to on Sunday afternoon.
Well, let's look at we're at the midway point already in the NFL, which just boggles my mind. Talk about time flying. The Giants. Let's talk about the Giants. They're 6-2 right now, and in my opinion, and I reluctantly mentioned this to you on the phone the other day, and God, this tastes so bad what's about to come out of my mouth. But the Giants, I think, are the best team in the NFL right now, although their rankings don't really indicate that. I was surprised to see where they sit with some of these rankings. I mean, as great as your boy, your hero, Eli Manning plays, the passing game for the Giants are ranked 6 overall.
Well, I'll take 6, compared to, what my team is ranked. So I will take that. The thing about Eli is that, he still, no matter if he has a running game, doesn't have a running game, if a patchwork receiving core because guys are out with injuries, he gets it done. I think he's third in the NFL in passing with over 2,300 yards. He's got 2 fourth-quarter comebacks. He's a winner. Bottom line, I mean, you could say what you want about the guy. He's goofy. He is. But you know what? That team responds to him. You ask anybody on the offense or defense, does Eli have control of that team? And without a doubt, he does. You look at the Jets. Does Sanchez have control of his team? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He's not the same kind of leader as Eli, and he's not a winner like Eli. That being said, is Eli having a great year? Not great. I mean, he's got 8 interceptions, which is a little bit too much. But you know what? They find a way to win, and that's the true sign of a champion. They find a way to win. Last week, up 23-0. You thought the game was a blowout. Back comes the Dallas Cowboys, but they still find a way to win.
Well, Mikey, it's easy to find a way to win when you have, a stellar offensive line that you can. Now, despite their rushing game, which is 12th, ranked 12th, and they're only averaging, which really surprised the hell out of me, less than 115 yards a game, which is just totally not the New York Giant football. But still, they make and here's the other thing about their running game. It seems, and I actually can't seem to find my average my 20-plus yards, but I think that they from what I remember, I think that most of the Giants' rushing game comes with big chunks of yardage. Like, in other words, they make nothing, all of a sudden, bam, 15-yard gain, and that's what's giving them that average, 114 yards a game, 114.6. But the thing is that they have a great offensive line. They have a collection of qualified running backs. They have receivers. Well, you know how I feel about their receivers. They catch footballs with their helmets, with their cleats, with their it sticks to their elbows. All of that stuff. I mean, you can say what you want about your dream guy Eli, but the truth of the matter is this: he's got a great supporting cast, Mike, and not only that, but once again, which has been the norm for the New York Giants, their defense is stingy with a capital S. And let's face it, for the first time in years, their linebacking core, although they're good, their linebacking core isn't loaded with Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson. I mean, they got some good linebackers, but their front four is dominant. Nobody's better than their front four, and their secondary is marginal, but still, as a whole, in my opinion, they're the best team in football.
I agree with that statement, but let's talk about that defensive line. That defensive line has been getting better. Okay, they didn't start the season that dominant defensive line that you're used to from last year. Okay, they had problems. Chris Canty out for 6 games, and that's a big reason why they were giving up 113 yards per game. Now he's back. Okay, Linval Joseph This guy's got 4 sacks. Very quietly, he's gotten 4 sacks this season. He's played well. He was another draft pick last year. Jason Pierre-Paul is starting to come into his own. He's got 5.5 sacks. Tuck and Umanura still haven't, they're still not playing the football that we're used to. However, they are improving from the beginning of the season. This team, you talked about the offensive line. This offensive line was terrible last year. They had a slew of injuries. That's why their running game was ranked 32nd, and now you just mentioned it's 12th this year. Plus the fact that they've only given up 7 sacks to Eli Manning. You give that guy time to throw. You give any quarterback time to throw, they're going to do well. So this team, without a doubt, you look at the division. You take each team all around talent, all around on both sides of the ball. They're probably the most consistent. They're probably the most well-rounded, I should say, compared to Chicago, who I'll take Eli over Cutler any day of the week. Atlanta, great offense, 7-0, best start of their career. Defensively, I think the Giants are the better defensive team. When it comes to offense, you're comparing Atlanta to the Giants. Eli and company are no slouch compared to that team. And the 49ers, well, you saw what happened. Giants went into San Francisco and they spanked them, and they're 6-2. So yeah, all around, probably right now, the Giants do look like the team to beat in the NFC.
Defense is getting better. Well, that's a pretty scary statement, my man, Mike. The defense is getting better. They're 6-2. They're getting better.
That's right. They are.
Yeah,
you look at it.
I know.
Canty is back. Chris Canty was out for the first 6 games. He's back, and that's going to be a big help, especially to the run defense.
Of course. And last year, the Giants. What the Giants did is they, in my opinion, I said this, before the season even started. I think they changed the way teams look at the NFL season. I think that the Giants last year proved that you methodically get through the first 3 quarters of the NFL season, come on strong, and hit your fourth gear in the fourth quarter of the NFL season to carry you into the playoffs, and it equals success. And the Giants have done that recently, obviously winning the Super Bowl last year that way. And the thought of them getting better, sitting at a record, if you're going to say that the team is moving along the way they did last year, well, I got news for you. They're going to be better. They may not lose another game if that's the case. 6-2. Overall, I give the offense an A right now at the midseason. I give their defense an A. And if there's only any negative on the whole team, and not that they've really done anything stupid, but I'll throw a B at the special teams. I mean, I really think, as much as it pains me to say, I think that the Giants are the most solid team in football. I'm hoping that the 49ers, because they've stepped it up a notch. I'm hoping that the 49ers have an answer for the Giants. I'm hoping that the Bears have an answer for the Giants. And I hope that the Packers have an answer for the Giants. But right now, I think the Giants are the team to beat in the NFC.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you when it comes to special teams. I'm going to give them an A. I think Lawrence Tynes, he's 24 out of 26 for field goals. Weatherford, listen, I'm still upset that the Jets gave Weatherford away.
And what a stupid move. Not only do they give him away, but then how good of a punter is Weatherford when the Giants stick the franchise tag on him last year?
Yeah. Exactly.
Unbelievable.
He's a big part of that team, and he's playing as well as he's ever played. And the other thing why I give this special teams an A is the rookie running back David Wilson. I mean, this guy's averaging 27.1 yards on kickoff returns.
Unbelievable.
He's almost 30 yards he's getting on kickoff, and he's only going to get better. You take away that fumble in the first game of the season, and he was right away. He was in Coughlin's doghouse. He's showed that he's got blazing speed, and he's going to be one of the premier kickoff returners for the next 5, 6, 7 years, I believe. So that's why I give that special teams an A. I agree with you with the offense. I give them an A. You got to give, obviously, Eli an A. The running backs have not been great, but they're vastly improved from last year. Bradshaw had some really good games. When he was out, Andre Brown came in, filled in. That's the thing that drives me nuts as a Jet fan, is that my main guy goes down. Giants' main guy goes down, and they fill him in like it's like nothing happened. All right, Bradshaw's out. Nah, we'll throw Brown in, and he'll give us 113 yards. I mean, it's incredible. The wide receivers. Listen, you get a healthy Akeem Nicks, and he hasn't been healthy, but you get a healthy Akeem Nicks, you put that in with Victor Cruz, and you got Ramsey Barden, you got Dominic Hickson, Ruben Randall. Again, you're solid everywhere you look on the receiving core. As long as they're healthy, they're solid. Who's a better long ball combination in football right now than Eli to Victor Cruz?
You're making me sick. I'm ready to throw up.
Honest.
I'm ready to throw up.
It's killing me. But I'm being honest.
It's killing us both. Why do we got to still talk about it? One other thing. You got to give the coaching staff an A. I mean,
Absolutely.
Coughlin has really. He's one of the. I think he's the oldest coach in the NFL. He's also a guy that has made a complete about face with his coaching style, and he's learned to deal with today's athlete, and he's done a fantastic job. Likewise, the offensive play calling. As much as I can't stand it, the reason why I contribute that to my A score with the coaching is that they keep you off balance, and the one thing I really appreciate with the Giants' offensive play calling is they got balls, Mikey. They're not afraid to sit on the ball like the other New York team, which we're going to break down right now as we're already flying through this segment. Real quickly, what's your coaching grade for the New York Giants?
I gave him an A as well.
Okay.
Gilbride, I agree with you what you're saying, and Perry Fuel and his defense. Like I said, they are getting better now that the injured players are coming back. And the big thing, beginning of the season, I said the secondary is going to be a problem for the Giants, and the secondary has played very well. Very well, defensive backs. And,
but wait a minute.
You lose. Wait, time out. You lose Kenny Phillips.
Yeah,
lose Kenny Phillips at safety. You put in Steve Brown.
Yeah, but when you got an offensive line when you got a defensive line like that, and you're putting pressure on with your front four, you and I could play that secondary. And you see, that's the big difference with the Jets. The Jets don't have that. So what we have with the Jets is probably man for man, even without Revis, the best secondary in the NFL, considering that we're forced to rush not only our front four, but our linebackers too. So we're constantly in one-on-one coverage, where the Giants, they have a luxury of having guys set back deep and being able to double cover more than one receiver because they put so much pressure on with that front four. And that's...
But they haven't been putting the pressure on like they did last year. They haven't been doing that.
The Giants?
So the defensive backs have stepped up because of that lack of pressure that they haven't been the same.
Well,
they haven't. They've been good. They've been better than the Jets. That's for sure.
Yeah, but look at it this way. The offensive coordinators, their game plans are stopping those front four. So they're actually, they may be succeeding in slowing down that pass rush, and you're right. The secondary has stepped up a little bit, but I think it all with the Giants anyway. It all starts with that front four. Let's talk about the Jets. I guess we have to. Dude, the offensive line sucks. The defensive line sucks. The linebackers I like the linebackers on the team, but they're only, you can't, and you want to know what else? I like their secondary even without Revis. The secondary is good. What happened to their special teams? The special teams were, by far under the tutelage of, in my opinion, the best special teams coach in the sport of football. They're just making some bonehead mistakes, although their return game is good. Like when they're getting the ball on special teams, they're okay, but when they're trying to stop it, they're not. I do like the some of the stuff that they've done with Tebow on special teams. The quarterback, real quick, Sanchez, yes, he blew the last couple of games, although a lot of people are giving him credit in those games for playing better than he has. yes, I'm going to finally tell you that Sanchez is laying an egg, but I'm going to throw a but in there. You know, I really think that if I had to pick one person, one guy, that if somebody's head has to be chopped off right now, you know, just to feed the gods, it would be Tony Spriano. And the reason why I say this is because, number one, I think he's the stupidest man in the football in the NFL. Really, his play calling, I think I could call a better game playing electric football than he can. You know, his use of Tebow, which let's be real, Mike, that was a big problem bringing Tebow to this team from day one, and they're not even quieting the masses. All the secret stuff you were mentioning that we were talking about the other night, you know, secret my ass. There is no secret. You know, they have an incompetent man at the reins of this horse.
Exactly. It was all a smokescreen about bringing in Tebow and not having the reporters be there in preseason because, we got to keep everything under wraps. You know what you were keeping under wraps? You were keeping under wraps that you have nothing. That's what you were keeping under wraps, and then that's been exposed. You know, at the midpoint of the NFL season, you have nothing. And you talk about Tony Spriano. Yeah, there's no doubt Tony Spriano will be fired by the end of the year. There's no doubt in my mind.
Willie,
but
are you sure? Wait a minute,
Mike.
Mike, wait a minute. Are you sure? I mean, would you bet money right now that they're going to fire Tony Spriano?
I wouldn't bet my house, but if you told me here's $100, bet it. I'm going to Vegas, and I'm going to say he's going to be fired by the end of the year. You can't bring him back. How could you possibly bring him back? He's not an offensive coordinator.
Everybody blamed Schottenheimer for his play calling. Everybody wanted to string up Schottenheimer. And last year, you know, at times the play calling was definitely a head-scratching call. But let me tell you something. Just like I feel about Kenny O'Brien, when Kenny O'Brien was a quarterback for the New York Jets, all I did was hate him. I hated him. I wish that guy would never get up. He got sacked 150 million times, and every time he got up, and I was like, man, well, this guy just doesn't get hurt. And now, in hindsight, I wish I had Kenny O'Brien as the quarterback of the New York Jets. I mean, this was a guy that could throw the ball 70 yards and hit a pin, on the 10-yard line. You know, so I mean, you know, sometimes after a player is gone, we realize how good they were. With Schottenheimer, I'm not saying he was a great offensive coordinator, but he certainly looks good compared to Spriano.
Yeah, well, there was one person last year who didn't blame Schottenheimer for everything, and that was me. I've been telling you, and I've been telling everybody that's been listening, that I think that the Jets valued Mark Sanchez and picking him, moving up to pick him fifth in the draft. To this day, I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to stand on the highest mountain and scream for him.
But how can you blame it all on him?
That good.
But how can you blame it all on him?
I'm not blaming it all on him, and I've told you before, I don't blame it all on him. I blame the offensive line. I blame Mike Tannenbaum for not getting us any talent.
But
that being said, when he is back in the pocket, where is his internal clock? He holds that ball way too long consistently, Billy. He shouldn't do that. You know you have an internal clock. You got to let that ball go. Get it out of there. And he keeps getting these fumbles. He makes the same mistakes over and over. He doesn't make himself better.
You're right, and I couldn't have said. Listen, the eternal clock. He's thinking about his girlfriends or something, and their internal clocks, because he's definitely not. But here's the other negative about Sanchez, and I admit, you know, I'm not saying. Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Sanchez is Joe Namath, but I'm just saying that he's taken too much of the blame. But I agree with you about his time, his clock, his internal clock about letting the ball go. And another thing I want to add to that is he never looks at his second and third and fourth options. I mean, last week when he played, he did one for the first time, and I can't remember how long. He noticed Sean Green wide open with nobody in front of him for 20 yards, and he dumped the ball off to him when he was clearly looking downfield. And at the last minute, he saw him, and he dumped the ball off, and Sean Green ripped and got a 26-yard gain, I believe. And that was the first time I've seen him do that, definitely this year and most of last year. I mean, this is a guy that is looking, and he knows who he's throwing the ball to when he breaks that huddle. And I think it's also evident when you see him thrown into quadruple coverage all the time.
That's another thing. about throwing into quadruple coverage. He consistently does that. Yeah, did he have a nice pass to Sean Green? Yeah, but it's too few times that this happens.
I agree.
He gets locked into not going to his check down. He does it all the time. I shouldn't say all the time, but he's not correcting his problems. That's the thing, and he's on pace to duplicate his turnovers from his rookie season. He's just terrible. He's got a 52% passer completion, which ranks last in the NFL. His passer rating is ranked 30th. He doesn't do anything to make himself better. He does the same stupid mistakes.
Well,
That's
wait.
the problem. I don't see him making himself better. Does he have problems around him? Absolutely he does. Did they set him up to fail? Absolutely they did. But I don't see him doing the things that he needs to be doing to make himself better.
Well, he needs to. How about I'll tell you one thing he definitely should start to do is call his own friggin' plays. Because the play calling is so bad that they're setting him up for 3rd and long every single time. And by the way, the other thing with him, and I agree with you with the fumbling and making the bad decisions and stuff. But the other thing is it's like a Chinese fire drill with this team in between every single play. I mean, I'm noticing that they got the play clock down, to 5 seconds by the time they're getting to the line every single play. They have personnel issues. They don't know who's supposed to be in, who's not supposed to be in. He's constantly repositioning players. It's a circle jerk because of Tony Sprono. You got to blame the guy who's running the offense, and it's Tony Sprono. And by the way, everybody can blame him for not using a Wildcat and not using Tim Tebow and everything else. How about when they do use Tim Tebow and you run him in for one play, he gains 10 yards, he runs it to the 2-yard line, and you take him out? That is ridiculous. What happened to keeping Tebow? The only way Tebow is going to be effective is if you keep the defense on their heels. You and I talked about it the other night. If it's 70, 80% of the time the Wildcat is a run, then if I see Tim Tebow, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I see Tim Tebow come out on that field, guess what? I'm playing the percentages and I'm playing run. By having him on that field for a series or 3 plays in a row at least, now the defense has to think more. They're just not putting any kind of pressure on the defense. As a matter of fact, I think that Tony Sprono and the Jets offense are making it real easy for defensive coordinators.
Absolutely. There's no second guessing. You pretty much know what's going to happen when Tim Tebow comes in. We're talking about grading this team. I don't think I have anywhere in this team that I give them anything more than a C-.
C-.
At every position.
C-. Listen, I give the Jets offense an F. Really, the Jets offense is an F. I give the defense a D only because at times they play tough. I mean, I'm giving them a D because they never make the timely stop. They never make the timely stop. The stop that you need. The game is on the line, and you need the Jets to make the stop. They don't do it. Yes, they make some good stops during the game. Yeah, they get a turnover here and there. Yeah, they're lucky a field goal kicker misses a field goal after they turn the ball over. They get all of that, but they get a D. The special teams, you know what? I love the special teams coach so much. I give them a C. That's my best score for the Jets. Their coaching staff gets an F across the board. I got 2 Fs, 1 D, and a C, bro.
Well, I broke it down. I graded the quarterback, the running backs, and everything, and I give nobody. The only part of this team that I give more than a C is the defensive backs, and I'll tell you why.
I agree.
Because Cromartie has stepped up. Revis went down. Cromartie has stepped up. He talked to everybody. He said, I'm the second best, cover man. And he's backed it up. He's played really well this season. And then you have your safeties in Laurent Landry and Jeremiah Bell, and they're tied for second in tackles. They've given stability to this unit. That's the only position, defensive backs, and I give them a B. Everybody else, C, D, and F. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, this coaching, front office, I give an F. Mike Tannenbaum has to go. Tony Sperano has to go, and then you start from there and you start rebuilding, because this is going to be a rebuilding process, unfortunately.
Well, I think Rex Ryan has lost his team. He's not the same Rex Ryan. There's no way. Even his defensive play calling is terrible. You look at the running backs. Well, my first question is, who are the running backs? You got one. You got Sean Green. You got Joe McKnight, who I'm softening up to him a little bit. I'm finally forgiving him from last year. But they screwed up, man. They shouldn't have let this kid play. He wasn't 100%. Now he's out again. Maybe he gets healthy with the break this week. But the wide receivers, a bunch of unknowns. You got a guy who's getting the ball drilled in between the numbers, dropping passes. Jeremy Curley is the only bright spot of the receiving corps, but yet they have him returning kicks and punts and stuff, which is ridiculous. I mean, you're just asking for more injury, and we all know that the Jets don't have the depth. Listen, my final thought on the Jets before we get into breaking down this week in the NFL. I'm going to say it. I've been saying it all along. I'm not. I have two thoughts. Number one, Mark Sanchez. The guy throws a great ball. I think if you gave him some weapons, they took away all his weapons. He virtually has nothing on offense. Nothing. No line. He's got, between all of his receivers, let's count it as one good receiver. He's got a one decent running back. The tight end is coming on now, and Justin Kelly's getting healthy again. So I can't blame him yet. Yes, he's made some bonehead plays. Yes, he's making the same mistakes over and over. But man, when you're hearing these guys coming at you, when you're trying to stand in the pocket like he does sometimes too long. It's to me, it's showing his team that he's got faith in them, and they're failing him. I can't bail on him yet, although I think he's getting close to me, leading the charge. But the other thing I wanted to make a point on real quick is I'm not so against Tim Tebow being on this team. I just don't think they're utilizing him the right way. All the experts say he's gone, he's going, he's not going to be back, they're going to trade him, they're going to be this, he's going to be that. Why not have him in the backfield? They talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Why not do it? The guy is an athlete. Give him the friggin' ball.
Let me ask you this. You put Tim Tebow in the backfield. Does he scare you? If he says, okay, I'm now a running back for the New York Jets. I'm not going to pass the ball. I am strictly a running back. Does that make the team any better?
No,
Does
I wouldn't
scare you.
But I wouldn't do that. No, but I wouldn't do that, Mike. And I've said this to you before. I'd line him up in the backfield, and I would utilize the Wildcat. I would just have both of them on the field. Sometimes I'd hand it to him. Sometimes I'd shuffle pass to him. Sometimes I'd pitch it to him. I'd pass it to him. I'd give it to him so he can pass. That will scare and keep defensive coordinators on their toes. But by bringing them in the way you do, where you eliminate all that other question marks, all those other question marks of what may he do, now you play the percentages like we said earlier, and 80% of the time he's going to run the ball out of the Wildcat. He's putting no fear in anybody, and you're 100% correct.
Billy, even if they did that, he doesn't make this team any better.
All right, so get rid of him.
I agree, get rid of him.
And who's going to take him? No, the funny thing about Tim Tebow is nobody, the guy, as likable as he is, and how well he does for sales with shirts and hats and all that other stuff with the souvenir sales. There's nobody banging down the Jets' door to get him. But anyway,
no, I really thought that Jacksonville would take him. I really thought because their owner, they're not doing well. They're not putting people in the stands. They're going to be playing one game a year in Europe. Starting in 2014, 2015, whatever it is, one of their home games is going to be played in Wembley Stadium. I really thought, just for financial purposes, just like why that's exactly why Woody Johnson brought Tebow here, for financial gain. Okay, not because he's a great player. I thought that they would really make a deal with Jacksonville, and I don't care. Get a 4th, 5th round pick for him, something. Just get him off the team, because to me, he doesn't belong here. taken Mark out. You're not doing anything to help Sanchez. I've never been a big Sanchez fan, okay, and I admit that it's not all his fault. But you know what? You're not doing anything to help him by him marching down the field, and all of a sudden you take him out and you break his rhythm. It's a stupid, silly idea. Get rid of him. I think he'd be fine in Jacksonville. That team can't get any worse. You got Blaine Gabbert. Put Tebow in over there. He'll put people in the stands. He's from Jacksonville, and you take him to Europe, and you'll be selling merchandise out the yin yang. So I really thought that was going to happen, but unfortunately it didn't.
Well, the rumor had it that the Rams were really interested in him, and they were going to make a play, and the deadline, I think, to make a move, in-season move, was it might have been
Thursday.
Friday. Yeah, Thursday, okay. And there was some rumor that there was going to be a deal done, but it never happened. But anyway.
You know what I would have done? I would have loved to see them, we'll take Steven Jackson,
Yeah.
You take Tim Tebow.
Yeah, right.
You're right.
That's like Adrian Peterson. Yeah, we'll take him too, If we're
Exactly.
dreaming, we might as well dream big, But speaking of big, you're moving in on me. What am I up now? 2 games?
2 games, babe. 2 games. I've been easing up every week.
Yeah, well, you know what, and I've been giving you a chance to catch up. So now we're back to normal, and we're going to go through the games now. Week 9. Right now, the first game on the slate is the Denver Broncos are traveling to Cincinnati. Who do you like in that one, my man?
Well, I like Denver. Peyton Manning is 7-0 lifetime against the Bengals. He's passed for over 300 yards plus the last 5 straight games, which is a career high for him. Demaryius Thomas is 3rd in the AFC in receiving yards. Decker has caught a TD pass the last 4 games, and the Bengals are doing the opposite. They've had 8 turnovers in their last, in their 3-game losing streak. Dalton has thrown 10 interceptions. So it's 2 teams going in opposite directions. I like Denver, even though it's in Cincinnati.
I like Denver, too. I think Peyton Manning has gotten to his rhythm with this team. I predicted them to go far this year, win the division. I think they're on their way. I, too, think the Broncos are going to travel to Cincinnati and beat them, although it's going to be a little chilly. And I know Peyton isn't used to the cold, but the rest of the team is. I'm picking the Broncos. The next game is Green Bay Packers are going to be at the frozen tundra, even though it's not going to be frozen, against the Cardinals, who really started off strong, and they're not so strong right now. Who do you like in that one?
Well, I like Green Bay. I don't think there's any question about it. The Cardinals have lost 4 straight games. They just got blown out Monday Night Football 24-3 to San Francisco. And again, Green Bay is going in the opposite direction. The one thing about Green Bay is that they do have a lot of injuries. There may be as many as 6 starters out due to injuries, but you got Aaron Rodgers, who leads the NFL in TD passes and in QB rating, and is 3rd in NFC in passing yards. So you have Aaron Rodgers. You always have a chance to win. I don't see it close. 31-10 maybe. Green Bay.
Yeah, I got the Packers too. I've always had a soft spot for the Cardinals for some reason. And I always like when they do well, and they started off doing well this year, but they're not doing too well now. I'm picking the Packers as well. The next game on the schedule is the Miami Dolphins against the Indianapolis Colts. Although the Dolphins looked great against the Jets, and they look like a Super Bowl team, I still think they're a pretty bad team. And I'm actually going with the Colts in this one. I think the Colts at home are going to beat the Dolphins. What do you think?
Actually, you took my upset away. They are underdogs, and I'm taking the Colts as well. The Dolphins, even though they won their last 2 games, they've been outgained 825 to 428 yards. So offensively, they're just not doing it. The Colts have enough defense to stop that. The Miami run defense ranks 3rd in the league, but you know what? The Colts are not about running the ball. They're about Andrew Luck and passing the ball. Playing in Indianapolis, I like the Colts as well to beat Miami.
Ravens are traveling all the way to Cleveland. And although the Cleveland Browns were one of my sleepers this year, I think they're still sleeping because they're not waking up. And I don't think this is going to even be a close game. I'm picking the Ravens in a big win.
I'm actually picking Cleveland.
Wow.
I'm picking Cleveland because, like Ray Lewis being out, their defense is just not the same against the run. They're allowing over 140 yards per game. So I think you're going to see a lot of Trent Richardson in this game. Ball control by Cleveland. Richardson is not his injury that he had. He's fine now. I just like him at home. I think that the streak, the Ravens have a streak that they've swept the series for 8 straight years, and I think it's going to end this weekend. I'm picking Cleveland in an upset.
The next game on the line is the your boys, Houston Texans, going up against those pesky Bills. Again, Houston's at home. They seem to be one of the better teams in the AFC. I'm picking the Texans over the Bills.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, the Bills cannot stop the run. They're the worst in the league with over 176 yards per game. You're going to see a heavy dose of Arian Foster. Arian Foster, although he's getting the ball 24, 25 times a game, he's only averaging like 3.9 yards. So his average hasn't been up there, but he is still the workhorse. They're in Texas. I don't see the Bills doing anything against the secondary of the Texans. I like the Texans as well.
The next game is the Washington Redskins playing the Carolina Panthers. And to tell you the truth, this game I was a little torn at first, but I ended up picking the Redskins in this one. They are favored, and I just think that this is a tale of two teams going in two different directions. Who do you like?
Redskins got their butts handed to them last week in Pittsburgh, but the Panthers have lost 5 straight, and they are just going nowhere fast. It's the what's funny is it's the last 2 Heisman Trophy winners going at it, in Cam Newton and RG3. It's in Washington. Alfred Morris has been a great find for the Washington Redskins. Rookie 6th round pick. And he's first in the league with 717 yards for rookies. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Alfred Morris. RG3 always has the capability of running a one and run into the house. So I don't think this is going to be close at all. I like Washington big over Carolina.
Detroit Lions against the really struggling Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm just simply going to say I'm taking the Lions in this one.
Yeah, I think, like you said before, teams going in opposite directions. Jacksonville stinks. What's his face? Matt Stafford has been playing well of late. They lead the league in total team offense with over 400 yards per game. Titus Young has really stepped up. Since Nate Burleson went out with a broken leg. He's had 15 catches for 181 yards and 2 TDs in his last 2 games. I don't see Jacksonville being a threat at all. I like the Lions big in Florida.
One of my favorite teams really is the Chicago Bears. I love them. I always have. When I was a kid, I actually used to love watching the Bears, even when they had guys like Bobby Douglas playing, and of course Gale Sayers and those teams back in the day when I was a kid. And I've always just loved the Bears. I don't know why. I mean, not like they're my favorite team or anything. Now they're going to be playing Tennessee, who sometimes I wonder about Tennessee. Sometimes they seem to play well. Sometimes they play really bad. There's no in between with this team. And the Bears, even when they play bad, sometimes they find a way to win, like they have done several times this year. And I think that's the way this game's going to go. I think it's going to be too close for comfort, but in the end, the Bears are going to win, and that's who I'm picking.
Yeah, I like the Bears as well. This could be a letdown game for Chicago, but I don't think Lovie Smith's going to let that happen. You got the best run defense going against Chris Johnson, who for the last 3 games has almost 400 yards rushing. I think they're gonna stop him completely. Titans don't have a passing game to speak of. I like the Bears, no problem in Tennessee.
The next game is a tricky one, really, because I know you like them, but I just don't get it with Seattle playing Minnesota. Minnesota's been surprising a lot of teams this year. Seattle, I know they got a tough defense. I didn't know which way to go. I leaned with the home team. I'm picking the Seahawks over the Vikings. Who do you like? Yeah,
I like Seattle as well. I mean, their defense is 5th overall, and when it comes to playing at home, there's no team that plays better at home than the Seattle Seahawks. You're going to see a heavy dose of Marshawn Lynch. Adrian Peterson. It's amazing. This guy leads the league in rushing. Came off a torn MCL, and he's leading the league with 775 yards. But it's not going to be enough against that Seattle defense. I like Seattle. I think they're going to cover their spread, which I believe is 5, to beat Minnesota in Seattle.
The Oakland Raiders, I thought we're going to have a much better year this year. They're struggling, and this week they're the favorite by 1.5 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I'm not going with the favorite this week. I'm picking the Bucs. I'm not sure why. I thought the Bucs were such a poor team, but they quietly win a lot of games. I mean, when they lose, they lose. But when they win exciting games. Although Janikowski's got the foot and he's the kicker that everybody would want to have on their team in a real close game, I'm not so sure this game's going to be close. I'm picking the Bucs to upset the Raiders.
Tampa Bay has been playing really, really good ball lately, especially Josh Freeman. For the last 3 games, he's thrown over 1,000 yards. Rookie running back Doug Martin, he's averaging over 155 yards from scrimmage the last 3 games, and he had 214 against Minnesota. Nobody saw that coming. That being said, they just lost another starter on their offensive line, so now they have 3 starters out, and the Raiders' defensive line has been actually improving the last couple of games. I think they're going to actually stop Martin. He's not going to have the success that he's been having the last 3 games. Carson Palmer, always dangerous no matter what team he's playing for. I like the Raiders. Actually, the Raiders I believe are favored in this game, and I like them. So I'm taking the Raiders.
Well, yeah, they're favored by a 1.5. Usually, a home team is usually 3 points favored, but they're favored 1.5. And you make a great point. Carson Palmer, he was supposed to be the missing piece of the puzzle, but I guess they realized that there's more pieces missing. But that's the second one you and I are disagreeing on. The next game, the Giants against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hate the Giants, you know that, and I wish that they would never win another game in the history of the team. But I have a feeling they're going to beat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's not the same team, although they beat the Jets. They're just not the same team that we're accustomed to. And I'm picking the Giants in what I think is going to be an emotional game. I disagree with you. I think it's going to be more than words. I think they are going to be playing with that emotion, and that's a tough team to beat when their emotions are high.
I'm going the opposite direction. I'm actually picking Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, he has his team. They're at 16-6 versus the NFC, so they do play the NFC very well. They play very well on the road as well. Their defense ranks 2nd, and their pass defense ranks 1st. I like them. They're playing better. They've gotten their injured players back in Harrison and Palomalu. I think this is a letdown game for the Giants. They go out to Dallas and they hang on to beat the Cowboys. I think they come home and I know we talked about this before about emotions and everything, but you still have to play the game on the field. And I think right now Pittsburgh is playing some really good ball, and I'm going with the Steelers.
That's the one game I hope you're right on in the ones that we disagree, because I hate the Giants, but unfortunately I'm picking them this week. And then the final game for Sunday, the Atlanta Falcons are going to be home against the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to give Atlanta their first loss this weekend. They've been hanging on to some wins. They are a good team, but they're a team that's not as good as their record. I know we always say it the other way around. We're always saying, this is a team that's 3-5. They're better than their record indicates. I think it's the opposite with the Falcons, and I think they're going to suffer their first defeat this week, and I think it's going to be at the hands of the Cowboys. I'm picking the Cowboys.
I was leaning towards that way when I was looking at this game about going with Dallas, and I'm saying, Atlanta eventually has to lose. I just don't think it's going to be this weekend. Tony Romo, I mean, he looked terrible with those 4 interceptions in that loss to the Giants last week. Like you said, I mean, Falcons are undefeated. They're off to their best start in franchise history. But, at home, with that home crowd and Tony Romo, he's just, he leads the league in interceptions at 13. I just and I like their pass defense has been playing really well. I like the Falcons. I think it's going to be a close game because the Cowboys have a very, very good pass defense as well, but there's a lot of weapons that Matt Ryan has to throw to. Not just his 2 receivers, but he's got Tony Gonzalez. He's got Jacques Rogers out of the backfield, Michael Turner. I mean, he's just loaded with talent around him. So I think they're going to go to 8-0, and I'm picking Atlanta to beat Dallas.
And then Monday night we got another tough game. At least I think so. Although most people that like the Saints feel that they're unbeatable at home, and the Saints are at home. It's the Saints against the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm taking the Eagles. I'm a big Michael Vick fan. I think it's time for the Eagles to put up a shut up. I think that this game is going to be an indicator whether the Eagles are going to be in the postseason or not. I think if they lose this game Monday night, I think they're done. In my mind, but if they win, I think they're the Eagles I thought they would be. I'm picking the Eagles to upset the Saints at home.
I'm picking the Saints because number one, it's in New Orleans, like you said, and I think it's going to be a shootout. I mean, the New Orleans defense is horrendous. They're the worst in the NFL. That being said, Michael Vick hasn't been playing that well either. So if you're going to get into a shootout with Michael Vick versus Drew Brees, which I think it's going to be, because Drew Brees can't put points on the board, and if Michael has to pass and they can't control the game with the run, then that's why I think the Saints are going to take it, even though their defense is horrendous this year. So I'm taking the Saints over Philly.
All right, so that makes us 5 games difference. So we're going to definitely have some movement this week, and this could very well be the week that Brooklyn Mike takes the lead. And I have one more prediction. This week I'm going on a limb, and I'm going to predict that the Jets Jets will not lose this weekend, and that's I'm sticking with that, and that's the end of that. Like I like to do every week, Mikey, I like to tell everyone what took place on this day in New York sports history. On this day, November 3rd. Now, I got to admit that most of these dates, were happened. I think just before you were a senior in high school, but nonetheless, on this day, November 3rd, in 1877, the newspaper's headline said, "The roughest game ever seen in America," and it was referring to Princeton beating Harvard in the very first meeting between each two schools in college football. 500 people were in attendance to witness this game, and I know you weren't allowed to go because you weren't a senior, but 1877 on November 3rd. Also on this day, November 3rd in 1899, James Jeffries stopped Sailor Tom Sharkey with a 25th round TKO to retain his world heavyweight title, and that took place on this day in 1899 at the New York Athletic Club. And finally, most recently out of our picks this week for this day in New York sports history, on this day, November 3rd in 1900, Madison Square Garden is the first site for the very first National Auto Show. 40 auto manufacturers have over 300 different cars on display for a 7-day event that drew 50,000 people looking at what they were calling the new horseless carriages. And those three things took place on this day, November 3rd, in New York sports history. Mikey, any final thoughts before we wrap it up this week?
Yeah, the reason I wasn't able to go to that game wasn't because I wasn't a senior, it's because I didn't make the height requirement. That was the problem. Anyway, it was a great show, man. Really good show this week. I'm looking forward to next week. I'm looking forward to being the leader in our picks by the end of Monday night. So good luck to you, my friend, and you and I will talk.
Yeah, well, good luck to you, and I hope that happens. But I'll tell you, I wish we had more time. I said this to you on a one-on-one basis, but honestly, to all my fellow Jet fans out there, this is the first year since I've been watching the New York Jets, and since I've been a very loyal fan, and it all goes from the Super Bowl. That was my very first game I remember watching as a kid, and I've never looked back. This is the first year in the history of me being a Jet fan that I am so disgusted that I feel terrible about being a Jet fan right now, and it's an awful feeling. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and things better change because, to be honest with you, Mikey, I'm losing interest in the sport because of what the Jets are doing to me, and that's not a good thing. So that's where my mind is at, and hopefully they can turn that around for us. And Mikey, great time as usual, and I look forward to next week, my man.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, everybody, tune in next time. We'll see you later. Ciao, baby.